So you mentioned based off of who the GM is as far as how the draft will look. Well, Jordan Schultz joined Colin Cowherd on the herd, and he believes that the general manager here will stay.
I think Bill was right when he thought that Jacksonville could be a good job because the owner would allow you a lot of control. Now, I don't believe they're going to move on from Trent Baalke, the GM. I think they're going to keep him.
That's problematic for me.
That's a big problem. And a lot of teams don't understand that. But Trent has buddied up in a way that is commendable to Tony Khan and Shad Khan. He's indispensable to them. I don't think he's going to get fired. Doug Peterson will not be there after the year.
So, a couple of things on this. Thank you to Jordan Schultz, friend of the program. I can just tell you that a lot of national reporters, and even here locally, their pride is a little hurt in light of being told that prior to the bye week and in light of a 52-6 defeat at the hands of the Detroit Lions, that the Jaguars would make changes at multiple positions. And as we know now,
yeah, that was widespread.
No changes came. And that's why it's not just Jordan Schultz. I heard it from Albert Breer as well. So many of these national reporters, in an effort to, for lack of a better term, Lauren, cover their own butt, are just
CYA is
they're pleading the fifth. They're pleading the fifth and just saying, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, he said he thinks Trent is entrenched with Tony,
which is
with
not
Shad,
wrong.
And he believes that Doug Peterson will be let go. And so therefore you have, I think, Jags fans' worst nightmare, which is Baalke then gets to pick the next head coach.
Which would be unprecedented in many regards because most GMs do not get the opportunity to select 3 head coaches. Now, we are referring to one man in Trent Baalke who has had that experience before once upon a time in San Francisco. And Shad knows that history. I would like to think at the very least he knows that history. I would also like to think that Shad recognizes that he had multiple candidates in the 2022 head coaching cycle who said, I will not work with Trent Baalke. If we go down that road again, which the expectation is that we will, and I would like to think that Shad Khan and Tony Khan understand that, well, now you're potentially saying we are not going to take the top candidate solely because this is our guy and he's our lieutenant and he's been such a loyal soldier to us.
But has he, the biggest, most important question, but has he been elite at his job? Because that's the only reason you get to stay as a general manager if a coach leaves, is if you believed Trent that this is the most talented, because my guess is that Trent Baalke told Shad that this is the most talented roster.
Right. Well, Doug denied it. It's
correct.
Not Doug.
Right. So I don't know for sure that it was Trent, but that was, eliminating the process of elimination seems like it would be your general manager who is the one who actually puts the talent together, that he's the one who told Shad that. And he obviously doesn't have any idea about the 90s, early 2000s Jags. But moreover, has he been elite at his job? And the answer is no, he has not been elite at his job. He's been able to pick a guy in Trevor Lawrence. Okay, anyone would have picked him. Anyone who doesn't even watch sports would have picked Trevor Lawrence. And then he had the number 1 overall pick again, and people still believe that he got that wrong by picking Trayvon versus Aiden. And like we talked about this week, that's a whole other conversation. But at the end of the day, he hasn't been elite at his job. So why would you, just because he's been loyal doesn't mean that he's been outstanding.
910 on the text line, designed by Lifetime.
We're going to get them all
Enclosures.
riled up when we talk about this.
Elite, Lauren? I'll take average. You can interact with us at 641-1010. That is the number to reach us at on the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. The MyBookie digital studio is also open, where Marcel on YouTube says, I think they keep Trent too. He definitely needs to go. Shad is not a good football owner. They are out of touch. Now, I would not go that far because I was even listening to the boys from PFF this morning with the Stock Exchange. Shout out to friends of the program and Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers. And Connor said, if you're looking at this from the outside, if you are Ben Johnson, if you're Liam Cohen, if you're any of these potential GM candidates or any beat reporter covering another team in the NFL, there is a difference, and I thought this was very profound. There is a difference between cap and cash, right? You can have a lot of cap space, but the cap can be manipulated if you are willing to give guaranteed cash up front. And so they were doing their Fix the Franchise series this last 3-4 weeks.
So for people who don't understand, the Jaguars have both cap and Shad is willing to spend the cash for the guarantees. A franchise like the Bengals is not like that.
And that was the example that Connor gave. The Bengals could have cap space, But historically speaking, the Brown family is not as keen to give that money up front, that guaranteed money that would allow for the cap number to be low, because the player is actually being compensated. They're just being compensated by money out of the owner's pocket, not from what the league is allocating in terms of dollars and cents. And so that's where, if you're on the outside looking in, I would not say Shad Khan is a poor owner, because from the outside looking in, people say, man, this guy's willing to spend money on free agents. He basically has the trust and the faith in his personnel department and his coaching staff that he says, whatever you need, let me know. I will write the check. I will be there for you.
And he stays out of the way.
I'll stay out of the way.
Like Jerry Jones.
You tell me, let's have a conversation. You tell me what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and we'll have a dialogue. This is not Jerry Jones where he is dictating which way that the organization is headed. And so from the outside looking in, yes, that's the perspective. The perspective is also, as I know Bomani Jones said a few weeks ago on XL Primetime, that Shad just hasn't been able to have the most success when it comes to hiring. And that brings into question, if the Jaguars are to have one or two vacancies at the head coaching and GM position this offseason, how does Shad go about it? When it came to hiring Doug Peterson, he led that process with Trent Baalke, which, in my estimation and in my conversations, I believe that was a thank you to Trent for dealing with the circus of the previous 11, 12 months with Urban Meyer, which, from what I've been told, Trent Baalke kind of raised some warning signs to Shad early on, and Shad said, no, it's great. He's great. And obviously, Trent was right. Trent was validated. So that was a thank you. And Trent helped him run the search because he had experience. You go all the way back to 2013 when Dave Caldwell and Gus Bradley were hired. That was Bill Polian. You can go back to Mike Mularkey, and Gene Smith largely did that hire. Doug Marrone was an internal hire. And the point being that these Korn Ferry or outside search firms, many teams use them. We've spoken about the Detroit Lions and the idea of bringing back a former player and Chris Spielman to form this advisory board that led the search for their ownership in silos, I guess I should say, where they were looking for GM candidates, looking for head coaching candidates. But that was only after they identified, hey, this is what our identity is. This is the type of coach we need. We're going to find the GM. We're going to present him as 4 or 5 head coaching candidates. He's going to help us interview, but we are the advisory board, right? So that's where my biggest question in terms of ownership is. If there's one opening, if there's 2 openings, is he bringing in outside help? Or is it help from within the building? Because if it's help from within the building, then Jordan Schultz is not wrong when he says that Trent Baalke is the eyes and ears right now for Shad Khan.
The Jaguars organization, to me, Mia, right now is a dead fish. And what do you do with a dead fish that stinks? You get rid of all of it, not part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in my opinion, what Shad needs to do is hire someone who totally understands how the NFL world works, not a former college football coach to bring in the NFL.
So you're saying that the actual GM or the head coach, or you're saying who's going to run the search firm?
Right. He needs someone to run the search firm that understands all of football and hirings and firings and who should be put on the roster and things like that. It would have been honestly like a Bill Belichick to not be the GM and to not be the head coach, but to be someone who oversees it all. Right, but is also in charge long after the hiring. Like this person is here for the long haul. Again, not Bill Belichick because he's now the head coach at the University of North Carolina, but someone that understands how it all works. It very similar to how Tom Coughlin was hired in 2017 to be the EVP. Very similar to that as far as executive vice president of football operations. That person needs to come in and really be in charge of the Jaguars, and then that person gets to, along with Shad and the family, hire the head coach and the GM and move forward with an identity also, because right now this team has absolutely no identity.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.